All right, let's try another example. So we still have a graph here, but this is a different style where we have percents. So this is example 2 in your text. It says researchers have surveyed college freshmen every year since 1969. And the figure below shows that attitudes about some life goals have changed dramatically over the years. In particular, the freshman class of 2013 was more interested in making money than the freshman class of 1969 had been. So you can see here we have two questions, being well off financially or developing a meaningful philosophy of life. So in 1969, about 42% of freshmen had a goal of being well off financially. 82% in 2013 are worried about being well off financially. In 1969, about 85% of freshmen were concerned about developing a meaningful philosophy of life, whereas now, or in 2013, 45% feel that way. So in 1969, 42% of first-year college students considered being well off financially essential or very important. For the period from 1969 through 2013, this percentage increased by approximately 0.9% each year. If this trend continues, by which year will all college freshmen consider being well off financially essential or very important? All right, so here's our question, right? If this trend continues, by which year will all college freshmen consider being well off financially essential or very important? So we're looking for the year here, right? That's really our goal, is what year is this going to happen? So find the year in which all college freshmen consider being well off financially essential or important. Okay, so we're looking for a year here. Now, I only have one unknown. So if you have one unknown, it's pretty, I shouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier because it points you in the direction of what your variable should be. So we're going to have our variable focused on the year. And we're going to do a little bit differently though. When you have time and we're talking about variables, we usually have a starting year. So instead of just having X be the year, we're going to actually have it be the year since 1969. So 1969 will be our starting point. So this is the number of years since 1969. And this is a pretty popular way to set up years when we're doing linear equations. So it's not always done 100% of the time, but it is most of the time. So usually if we're basing data off a certain starting point, like in this case, the 42% data in 1969, then that's going to be our starting point for our X value as well. So for instance, if X is 1, that would be the year 1970. If X is 2, that would be the year 1971, and so on. Okay. I also know that in 1969, 42% of first-year college students considered being well off financially essential or very important. And then after that, this percentage increased by approximately 0.9% each year. So let's think about what's going on here. We have our starting point, which in this case is 1969. And then we know that the percent is increasing by 0.9 each year. So our starting point here is at 42%. To increase something means to add, and it's changing by 0.9 each year. Now, I don't know how many years yet, but I know that X represents the number of years. So I'm going to multiply this by X so that if X is 1, it would be 0.9. If X becomes 2, then I have 0.9 times 2, right, which is 1.8. If X is 10, I have 0.9 times 10, right, which is 9. So it's 0.9 for each year. I'm letting X be that number of years. Now, I want to know when, let's see, all college freshmen consider being well off financially. We see that word all there. essential or important. So if all college freshmen consider this to be essential, all means 100% of the students. So if I'm talking percents here, I want to know when is this equal to 100%. So that is all students. And now I can go ahead and solve. So I'm going to start by subtracting 42 from both sides. And I have 58. I'm going to divide by 0.9 on both sides. And you definitely want to take out your calculator here. And what you get is 64.4, and that 4 is going to be repeated. So just running to the nearest year, it's about 64. Now remember, X is the number of years since 1969. So if I want to answer the question, I have to take that 1969 and add my 64 years to it. So what I get here is 2033. So using the current trends, it seems that in year 2033, all students will consider being well off financially as essential or very important. And again, this is based on current trends, right? So one thing we do have to be careful about when we're modeling our data is making sure we don't go too far beyond our initial data range. So we are going 20 years out here. So our data starts at 1969, then we have data to 2013. And then we're going 20 years later. So this is an approximation, maybe a bit too far out to get our true estimate, but based on what we know right now, if everything were to stay the same, it would be about year 2033.